Good morning, guys. Good afternoon, good evening. It's going to be one of them at some point that you're watching this, so we'll just go with all. So we're going to take everything that we've learned about Ozymandias so far, and this lesson is going to focus on some essay writing. Don't panic, I'm going to go through it with you now. And I'm not expecting you to write the essay yet. We are going to look at planning it first. So, the last thing you did then was this. These were the tasks that I asked you to do. I promised they were all relevant. These are all keywords that you are going to need for your essay. So we've already looked at this with the warning poem that we did. This is the clips structure for analysing poetry. So I want you to really think about this and get this into your head when looking at any poetry, really. But when you're writing your plan for this poem, this is what you need to think about. If you can tick something off for each of these, you are onto a winner, okay? And it's not as hard as you are probably telling yourself that it's going to be. So I'm not going to go through this again because I did that in the last video. But we're going to use that as the basis for our essay. So, before we get into planning then, some key information that I want you to think about. Shelley was opposed to both the government and the king, so he did not agree with the way that the country was run at the time. He was from England, and he disagreed massively with people who chose to rule in a tyrannical way. So where they weren't really fair and they abused their power. The power that they had was more important than the people who they were supposed to be looking after and ruling over. He believed King George III, who was the king at the time that he wrote this, was a tyrant, and so may have written this poem partly to tell those in power that their power and their tyrannical rule will not last forever and is therefore transient. The poem has two main themes. This is your important bit. So there's the power of man and the power of nature. So what we mean by that is Ozymandias was... he said that he was the king of kings. They were his words. This is the power of man. So he saw himself as the best that there had ever been at doing what he did. He was the best king, and his legacy would last forever. It would live on. He used slave labour to get the people in his kingdom to build a statue. And so the poem is sort of tackling and trying to portray the way in which Ozymandias ruled and what he thought of himself, what kind of person he was. And then there's also the power of nature. So what we mean by that is Shelley talks a lot about the desert and the sand and the crumbling of the statue, the fact that it's shattered, the fact that there is only two trunkless legs and a head in the picture, and all of that had to have happened somehow. That has happened over time, and time is a result of nature. That is just nature. Time is nature. It happens. There's no way of stopping time. So the idea is that you are going to write a plan that answers this question. So how is the theme of power presented in the poem Ozymandias? So what I'm going to do is I've put a help sheet in the shared area with today's date on it, and I've put this, I've put this clips analysis as the first page of a Word document. So you've got all this information there ready to go. What I then want you to do is focus on just bullet pointing, really. So I've given you some keywords, I've given you some of the key quotations that you might want to focus on. And what I want you to do is, by the time we have our next lesson, which will be next Tuesday, guys. So by the time we have that lesson, I want you to have submitted a plan to me. So I've laid it out for you. You've got your introduction, your main body paragraphs, and your conclusion. And what I want you to do is just bullet point some ideas under each one of what you are going to talk about. And when you submit it to me, I will give you some feedback and I will say, yes, this is exactly what you need to be saying. Or if you're not quite there, I can push you in the right direction and give you a little bit of help. So give it a go, guys. I'm not asking you to write the essay. This hasn't got to be amazing. It is a plan, okay? I'm going to give you feedback on whether that is right or wrong before you write your essay. So don't panic if you're not really sure. Just put some ideas down and get it back to me. If you've watched all the videos and you've watched the video of me annotating the poem, it should give you some ideas straight away anyway. And some of the questions that I've asked you on the tasks so far will relate to this. So it's really useful for you to look back at the work that you've already done, look back at the video where I've annotated the poem, and see what you can pick out for your bullet points for your essay. If you need any help, as always, email me. I will answer, not straight away sometimes if it's after school time, because obviously I have two lovely children that take up all of my time until I can manage to fight them into bed. But yeah, email me and I promise I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible with any help. Don't leave it until it's due in before you ask me a question. Other than that, guys, stay safe and I will see you next Tuesday.